No, stop. Let's have a real conversation. Imagine this. Imagine you telling yourself you're going to date safe. You're going to just, take your time, this, that, and the other. But then you meet somebody in close proximity around where you stay. And he's nice. He's cool. He's chill. He's just your type. But in the beginning, you give him no play because you're focused. You're minding your business. So every time he speaks, you just give him a light hey. And every time he tries to stop you and have a conversation, you're like, oh, I got to go. Because you really have to go. You're a busy person. So time goes on. You're bringing in the groceries, hypothetically. And he's like, oh, you need help with that? You're like, no, sweets. Oh, I got it. You're like, no, let me help you with that. Like, stop. So you're like, okay, whatever. Let me in. All right, cool. And so as you stop to say thank you, he says, I've really been trying to get your attention, which you already know, but you're on your own zone. So you're like, I know, I'm just a busy woman. He's like, let me take you out, blah, blah, blah. And so you all get acquainted just a little bit. Y'all start to kick it a little bit. Like, he's cool. Nothing crazy. And so one day he says, you want to come over and watch a movie? We stay in close proximity. Why not? And you're like, you know what? Let me stop being so hard up. It's cool. Like, yeah, I'll do that. Y'all have hung out. Y'all have got to know each other. It's kind of cool. What if this happened to you? And let's just say as y'all were watching a movie, you're laying on his chest and you're just laying there. And he says in a real smooth way, so is that light you keep on your living room light or your bedroom light? So as you're laying there on his chest, you couldn't have possibly heard him correctly because you stay somewhere far, far off, secluded, even though it's in close proximity. So you say, what you say? And he says again, so is that light you keep on your living room light or your bedroom light? So now you laying on his chest thinking to yourself, how would anybody see that light? He said, look, as you're laying there on his chest, I've been watching you for a long time. What do you do? I've been liking you for a long time. Now this you know, but you don't know where it's gonna go next. There's some days I see you leave out every day and I think to myself, if I ever had her, I would. And you waiting, but he doesn't say no more. Now as a woman, you're in a position where you cannot run, you cannot go anywhere. You're in their house, in their territory. So he continues. Yeah, I would see you sometimes with your dress on, going to stores and stuff. And you're thinking to yourself, how would you see me at the store? Around the way is cool, but at the store? And as you laying on his chest, he goes further and says, sometimes I would screenshot your toes on your Instagram because your toes, you always got them white. Oh, snap. Part two.
She thought she was going to a normal sleepover, but she was brutally attacked by 3 girls who were supposed to be her friends. This is the story of Kira Hart. I do want to give a trigger warning that this video does talk about the abuse of a minor. She does survive, so this is a survival tale, and it's amazing how she survives this. I'll get to that. But if you don't think you should be listening to something like that, please don't. Your mental health matters. Please take care of yourself. And a quick disclaimer that I'm just a girl, I'm not a lawyer, and all of this information is publicly available. If the lighting keeps changing, the sun keeps going behind clouds. I have no control over that. Kira Hart was 14 years old from Queensland, Australia, and on the night of March 16th, 2023, she thinks she's going to a normal sleepover with 3 of her friends. 14-year-old Chloe Denman, 15-year-old Renisha Grunch, and another girl named Shania Grunch. I believe the 2 Grunch girls were sisters. The sleepover took place at the Grunch household, but I couldn't find anything that solidified whether they were sisters or cousins or related, but I would assume with the same last name that they were related somehow. So, Kira gets to the sleepover. I mean, she's excited for it. Everyone is excited for a sleepover when they're 13, 14, 15. Sleepovers are supposed to be about watching movies, eating popcorn, talking about crushes. And Kira thought that that's what was going to happen that night. But for her, it turned into a night of pure hell. Because the people she trusted, the ones she thought were her friends, actually lured her into a trap. Let me give you some background on these girls because it's important to know going forward. Kira, before the incident, was described as a regular teenager. She was quiet, trusting, very sweet, and overall likable. And most importantly, she did not have a reputation for being a troublemaker. Renisha was identified in many reports as the ringleader of the assault. She was frequently described as more aggressive and central to organizing this entire attack. Chloe is described as someone with a visible online presence. Before the incident, there were suggestions reporting that there had been tension, perhaps some jealousy or bullying between Kira and Chloe. And lastly is Shania, who is less featured in the reports. She's mentioned as Kira's classmate, who was possibly involved in the attack, but we'll find out later that this entire attack was recorded and Shania cannot be seen in the recordings, as well as Chloe, Kira, and Renisha are. So immediately once Kira got to the sleepover, she was taken off guard. She was ambushed by the girls. She was beaten, punched, kicked, dragged around by her hair, and even cut with sharp weapons by Chloe, Renisha, and possibly Shania. They literally threw glass bottles at her. I'm sorry, when I was 14, I was watching movies and talking about my crushes at sleepovers. Who brings a glass bottle to a sleepover and then throws it at their friend? Kira was tied up, and for 4 whole hours, this 14-year-old girl, please keep in mind that these are all teenagers, 15 and under. So this 14-year-old girl was tortured for 4 hours by other teenagers. And again, I mentioned it briefly, but the part that makes my stomach turn about this case is that they recorded the entire attack. The girls doing this to her, her so-called friends, tied her up, set up a tripod, pushed record on a phone, and recorded the entire thing. I have no words. You might be asking why, because I know I am. Why would you be torturing someone you called a friend? How do you sit there and laugh while someone who is being tortured is begging you to stop? It is so beyond me. And of course, you guessed it, the video got leaked. It was put online and it went viral. People couldn't believe what they were watching. This wasn't just bullying, this was full-on sadistic torture done by teenagers. Teenagers. I don't know how many times I have to say that for it to like click, but like if you know a teenager, just think about it. Like a teenager. 14-year-old and 15-year-old girls. When I was 14 and 15, I was like painting my own toenails and fucking watching Disney Channel. I don't know. Maybe not at that age, but you get my point. One report says that after the attack, her friends walked Kira back home and told her mom that she had been, quote, jumped. Her mother opened the door and seeing her daughter visibly bruised, beaten, bleeding, she was in complete and utter shock and immediately took Kira from the girls and took Kira right to the hospital. She was examined immediately and was found to have multiple injuries. She was then rushed into emergency surgery in an effort to save her. Doctors found a broken nose, a broken jaw, bruises, and cuts all over her body. Those were her physical injuries, but honestly, the emotional toll that took on her, I can't even begin to put into words. I cannot even fathom that, and there's no way I can be able to describe that. The damage of something like that to a 14-year-old. I seriously don't even have the words. Thankfully, Kira came out of surgery and survived the attack, which is amazing. That is great, and Kira is so strong for that, but the amount of stories that I'm seeing like this surface of similar situations where a friend gets tricked into hanging out with other friends and then ends up getting unalived by them, it should not be an escalating number. If anything, it should be decreasing in the amount that it's happening, but it's getting more and more frequent, and I am getting more and more afraid of teenagers. Seriously, what is going on in the world? Kids are turning on each other and bullying goes so far that it crosses into criminal territory. And yet, when it comes to punishment, the system barely treats it as severe as it actually is. Because yes, the girls were each charged with assault, but I couldn't find if they served any juvie time, jail time. Again, this case happened in Australia, so their judicial system is different than ours. But I'm hoping that they spent some time behind bars because what the fuck? They were minors at the time, which made people think that they were just going to be given a slap on the wrist and that they were going to be able to walk free. Maybe they had some probation, maybe they had some community service. 4 hours of torture and they might have just walked free with minimal consequences. That doesn't sit right with me. When the internet saw the video of the attack, people were outraged. Thank God that did not come up on my FYP because I definitely would have cried. People were so outraged that they started petitions demanding harsher punishments. They even opened up a GoFundMe for Kira to help her pay with hospital bills and things like that. Strangers from all over the world rallied with this girl because even if the justice system didn't end up protecting her, people wanted her to know that they saw her, they heard her, and they want to help support her. Kira was described as sweet, shy, and just a normal teenager who ended up trusting the wrong people. She's a victim, and her scars aren't just physical. They're emotional too. It's betrayal, it's trauma, and it is something she's gonna have to carry for the rest of her life. And for those 3 girls, I'm just gonna say it, we do not like those girls. We do not like mean girls. Don't be a mean girl. It's 2025. Don't be a mean girl. Can the world just collectively agree to be a better place and stop bullying people and stop unaliving people and stop torturing people? Thank you very much. Imagine being so cruel and so hateful that you think doing something like this is okay. At 14 and 15 years old, you've already decided that you're capable of torturing someone and then laughing about it. That's not just teen drama, that's incredibly narcissistic and very dangerous. But at the end of the day, this case is not about them, it's about Kira. She survived, she's strong, and she deserves to know that the world has her back. that people are demanding justice for her, and that she's not defined by what happened to her. Kira Hart deserves so much better. That is all I have on this case, but I would love to know your thoughts in the comments. Are you as mad as I am about it? Do you think the girls will actually ever face real consequences for what they did, or will they walk away with a slap on the wrist? I post true crime videos, so if you like that type of content, follow so you don't miss my next video, and please stay safe out there because you never know what's right around the corner. Be careful at the next sleepover you go to. Really make sure that they're your friends, because sometimes bad shit happens.
So story time. I promise you will be entertained, but if you start the story, please stay till the end. So when I was 5 years old, my entire family was killed in a car crash, and I was the sole survivor. When I turned 18, I decided to move out of state for college because I didn't really have any friends or family in the area anyway. I ended up going to Massachusetts. When I got there, I didn't really know anybody. It was a totally new environment. It was unfamiliar. It was kind of scary, but eventually I met a guy at the school. He was really nice. We started dating. Eventually we got a place together, and we lived in that house together for 3 years, and we were happy the whole time. Like, he's very, very sweet, very caring, very loving. You know, I just didn't feel alone for the first time, and it was absolutely wonderful. But around the 3-year mark, I started going through something. I started not to feel good. So obviously my first guess was pregnancy, so I took a pregnancy test, but that wasn't it. I was having like headaches and stomach aches and feeling nauseated all the time, feeling like extra sleepy, but it wasn't really like life-ruining symptoms. So I just started doing like ginger for the nausea and like soup if I had a tummy ache, you know, a little bit of Excedrin if I had a headache, you know, whatever, you make it work. But the symptoms just kind of kept getting worse. And like sometimes they would be so bad, I'd have a migraine or a nausea to the point that I couldn't even get up out of bed. And my boyfriend's like, babe, I think you should go see a doctor. And I'm like, what is a doctor gonna do? Like, it's not like I can't breathe. It's not like I have chest pain. I just have random unspecified symptoms. Like, what is he gonna do? But he's like, babe, like, you do not feel good. Like, you should go see a doctor. And I'm like, fine, whatever. So he schedules me a doctor's appointment. I go see the doctor, and it's exactly what I thought it was gonna be. The doctor is just like, there's nothing wrong with you. And I'm like, cool. So I go back home, and things don't get better, but they start to get worse. Because now I'm not just feeling physically bad, I'm feeling bad mentally. And I don't mean my emotions. I'm not sad or depressed. I'm dealing with confusion. I keep finding things in my house in weird places that they shouldn't be. I open my kitchen drawer to get out cutlery, fork, knife. All my earrings are in there. I go look at my jewelry rack. All my cutlery's in there. Paintings that were hanged on the wall are like turning upside down. And at first I'm just like, okay, you know, whatever, these things are very bizarre, but they're not really frightening. Like, I'm just trying to make this logical or reasonable in any way that I can. But I'm forgetting appointments. My fatigue is increasing. Like, it's just so much happening. And then it starts off slow. Little shadows of, like, in my peripheral vision, little sounds. And you know, like, you can have those things normally. Like, I think we all have those things occasionally, but they're coming more common and more frequent, and I'm starting to lose like time, like whole days I cannot remember. So finally I make myself an appointment. I go see a therapist. She does the intake, my assessment, and she's like, okay, you fit the diagnostic criteria for schizophrenia. So that was kind of like hard to hear, but at the same time I was thinking, okay, well, now we know what's wrong with me, I can get some help. And my therapist assured me, like, the medication we have these days can make your symptoms like almost nothing. You can go back to living a normal life. And I'm very grateful. I'm like, okay, good. So I break the news to my boyfriend, which was really scary because he was such a sweet and supportive person. I was just scared of being too much of a burden on him or losing him because he was kind of the only person that I had. But he was super sweet, super supportive. He held me while I cried. He went to go pick up my medication for me after running me a bath, like, you know, just really taking care of me. So I start taking my medicines, but things do not get better. In fact, they get worse because any kind of visuals or auditory hallucinations I was having are becoming more and more and more defined. And we switch medications like 2 or 3 times, and my therapist is like, oh, sometimes, you know, you gotta switch medications a couple times until you find what works. But things are actively getting worse, and I'm seeing and hearing things in my house, and I know that, like, it feels so real. So at this point, I become convinced that I am not sick, but my house is haunted. I know that sounds insane, but when you are dealing with so much confusion, bizarre things in your house, bizarre noises, like, you become afraid and you're willing to believe almost like anything that could possibly make things better. So I start getting into like these spiritual people talking about the paranormal, and I start trying to like do different things, you know, like I'm burning sage, I'm doing like, you know, whatever. And finally one day my boyfriend has to go help his dad with something, so he leaves me home alone. And I don't fully know what happened, but I do know that apparently I ended up leaving my house a little bit scantily clad. And apparently I was just kind of running around aimlessly, got picked up by the police, taken to the hospital, and obviously psych. And I wake up in the hospital, and as soon as I wake up, the nurse is all over me, like white on rice. And she tells me to just wait right there a moment. And I don't know how much time has passed. All I know is that I just woke up in the hospital. And I'm in a room by myself, completely isolated. There's nobody else there. And she comes back with a doctor, my therapist, 3 people, a man, a woman, and another girl. And they're all nicely dressed, beautiful people. And they look really familiar to me. But I'm like, I don't know. I'm not sure of anything anymore. And somebody who is not in a hospital uniform, and that person is in a police uniform. So now I'm looking at this cop and this room full of people like, what did I do? What did I do? I'm afraid. So I asked them, like, am I in trouble? Am I in trouble? And they're like, no, you're not in trouble. You're not in trouble. But, you know, I'm thinking they're just saying that to get me to, like, talk about whatever it was that happened. So the cop is, you know, he's asking me all these questions. Then the doctor cuts in and asks questions. And the nurse is writing a bunch of things down. And the therapist is writing a bunch of things down. But their questions are, like, mad normal. They're just like, what's your name? How old are you? Where did you go to school? Where did you grow up? Tell us about your family. Da da da. And I'm like, okay, like where are we getting to all this? And I'm just assuming, I've never been in this situation before, in like a psych whatever. So I'm just sitting there thinking like, okay, whatever. I don't know their policy. So finally, they end up telling me that they have to give me some news. And my heart is pounding out of my chest at this point, because what news are you about to give me? I guarantee you guys cannot predict what the news was. My name was not the name that I thought I was. In fact, I was not the girl that I thought that I was. Apparently, when I was 17, I was working at the country club that my parents were a part of, and I was a lifeguard. And there was a boy there whose family was not part of the country club, but he had like a small summer job washing dishes or something. And he developed a very unhealthy fixation on me. And he made me very uncomfortable, and he was following me and watching me, and my family was very worried about it. My friends were very worried about it, but I wasn't worried about it because I was just like, you know, whatever, I'm going to be leaving for college soon, and I was an Ohio kid, and I was going to the Ohio State University, and I was very excited about that. The boy, when the summer ended, went to college, and guess where he went to college? Massachusetts. The boyfriend that I had been living with for 3+ years, he actually kidnapped me, took me to Massachusetts, made me shave my head and wear wigs, used a combination of hypnosis tactics, medicines, and illegal substances and abuse to brainwash me into thinking I was a totally different girl. He told me that my family had died in a car crash. That was absolutely not true. My entire family is alive and well, and they were the 3 people that were in the hospital room when I woke up. He was using sedatives and hallucinogens and any illegal substance basically he could get his hands on to make me think that I was going crazy so that my dependence on him would never end. Oh, and I know that you're probably thinking, oh, but didn't he tell you to go to the doctor? Yeah, he did. The doctor he sent me to was his dad, who was previously a doctor, but lost his nursing license for basically being inappropriate with patients. And get this, His father was a serial unaliver responsible for the deaths of 8 women in Hyannis. And when I was taken into the hospital, they were finally able to identify me and give me my life back. If you stayed until the end of this video, that was completely fake. That was only for entertainment purposes. None of those things happened to me. I do make original horror content. I am an author and a poet. I hope you guys liked my story. If you stayed for the whole thing, if you would like to see more original horror content on my channel, comment down below. I really hope you guys were entertained by that. Thanks.
So I thought I would do a story time on one of the worst dates I've ever been on. Mind you, only been on like 2. So one of the 2 worst dates I've been on. So long story short, I was on Tinder. What am I doing, you know? And I matched with this guy, and straight away he was lovely. He was from my area, I found out, but I did not know this at the time. I just thought he's cute, like, you know. So I was like, why not? He was lovely straight away, like, asked how my day was, didn't ask to bump and grind, didn't ask to bump privates, okay? And he was lovely, and after talking, like, normal small talk for a little bit, he was like, could I take you on a date? And I was like, what? I was like, yes, you can, okay? Because I'd never been asked on a date straight from Tinder, you know what I mean? Like, I've never been asked on a date at this point. So I was like, yes, you may, right? So pretty much he was like, great, where do you want to go? I said, Martini & Co, of course, that's my favorite restaurant, okay? Love it. And he was like, all right, I can pick you up. Like, he's like, I'll make the reservation. I'll pick you up and everything so you can drink. I'll stay sober because it's a cocktail bar as well. So I was like, done. Which was a shock because, again, all my exes didn't have licenses or cars. So I was like, sure. So it comes to the night. I said, are we getting ready? Like, are we still doing this? Because it was from the night before and guys always cancel on me. So I was like, are we still doing this? And he goes, yep, I'll meet you there at 6 or 5:30 or whatever the time was that he made it for. So it's about 4 o'clock. I start straightening my hair, getting ready, whatever. And then he goes, oh, could you actually meet me there? And I was like, okay, why? And he was like, oh, I'm running a little bit late and I don't have time. I'm coming straight from work. Like, I don't have time to come get you and everything because we'll be late for our reservation. So can you just meet me there if that's okay? And I was like, sure. I was like, great. Now I can't fucking drink because I was on my P's. So I could get virgin ones, you know, but not the same. And then it gets to the time I'm about to leave and I'm like, all right, I'm leaving now. And he was like, oh shit, I'm running a little bit late, but I'll be there. And I was like, okay, whatever. So I get there like 10 to 6. I think the thing was at 6. And I get there at like 10 to 6 and I'm waiting like out the front of the restaurant. And it's like upstairs in Frankston and there's like the little arcade area with some seats and then the restaurant. So I just sat in the seats. And then it got to like 10 past 6. Like, I was sitting there for 20 minutes, okay? Like, dumb bitch who just left and bossed up, but no. And I was like, where are you? And he was like, oh my God, like, I'm so sorry. I'm on my way. My brother's dropping me off. And I was like, why couldn't you drive? I thought you were coming from work. And he was like, it's a long story. I'll see you in like 5 minutes. And I was like, okay. 10 minutes go by. I just see this man coming up the escalators, full S-shade outfit, black eyes, scrape across his whole face, like Air Maxes and a matching Eshe tracksuit with a fucking satchel, okay? I was like, what? No, that's not for me. He's not for me. And he starts walking straight up to me and I'm like, that's for me, okay. He was like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, what happened? And he was like, I got in a motorbike accident. And I was like, today? He goes, no, the other day. And I'm like, so why were you late then? I was like, what? And he was like, long story, let's go sit down. I was like, okay. I'm already questioning it, but I was like, I'm here, I'm dressed, like, may as well, you know. And he did say over Tinder and that day that he was going to be paying for dinner, okay? We go up, he pulls my chair out like a gentleman. I was like, okay. And we had great conversation, okay? Like, despite all the previous, we had really great conversation. And it's really rare that I actually enjoy conversating with people that I don't know. Like, I actually enjoyed the conversation. Anyway, after all that, like, you know, he goes, oh, my phone just died. Like, oh no, he said, do you want to come back to mine? He's like, not for anything like that, like, just because I feel like we're having a great time. Like, we can go watch a movie, nothing of that sort of thing. Just watch a movie and, like, you can spend the night. Like, I promise we're not doing anything. I just enjoy talking to you. And I was like, I actually enjoy talking to you too, so yes, that's fine. And he goes, and I ended up having a drink at dinner, and he was like, leave your car here, like, I'll get us an Uber home, that's so fine. And I was like, okay. It got time to pay, and he goes, my phone just fucking died. He's like, I got a charger with me, but there's nowhere to charge it here. And I was like, so how are we getting an Uber? So I'm paying for dinner now, which I don't mind. I've had all broke exes, okay? I don't mind that. It's just annoying. And you already fucked up everything else. Like, you know what I mean? So I was like, yeah, that's fine. I'll pay for dinner and I'll sort out a way to get home. So I got my friend to get me an Uber back to his. I go to my car to get my bag out, and he saw a dressing gown on my back seat, and he's like, fuck yeah, puts the dressing gown on in the middle of Frankston, starts walking around Frankston with it, right? And I was like, okay. We go back to his, whatever. He goes, the dog, he has a Rottweiler, and he was like, oh my God, like, he won't calm down unless I take him for a quick spin around the block. So do you want to, like, put a movie on, pick something, when I come back, we'll do it. He's like, sorry, he's just so hyperactive. I need to take him for a quick run around the block, otherwise he will not stop. And I was like, okay. So I put Netflix on. I go to the comedy section straight away because I love comedy. He brings me a Prima, like an apple juice Prima or something, and like a block of chocolate. And he's like, here you go, I'll be back, whatever. He comes back and he's just completely cooked. He's fried. I was like, what the fuck? He's like running around the room and he's like just like bouncing off the walls. I was like, oh my God. And then he lays down in bed and he goes, this is literally how he goes, right? He pulls me on top of him and goes, come kiss daddy. And I was like, what? I was like, I thought you said we weren't doing anything. He goes, no, come on, you're just so sexy. And I took my pants off because I was wearing skinny jeans and I was bloated from dinner. I had a jumper on though. And I just had no pants on but underwear and everything. Pulls me on top of him, starts grabbing my ass, grabbing my tits, whatever. And he's like, come on, come and kiss daddy. I was like, what? And I'm like, oh my God. And then he goes, nah, fuck Netflix. Let's put some YouTube on. Let's put some music on. And I was like, okay. He puts Cursor on. And I was like, and he's full rapping. Like, he's doing all this. Like, on, yeah, fucking ABK 225. And don't get me wrong, there's like 2 Cursor songs I like, but he's full like doing all this, right? And I'm like, oh fuck no. I'm like, no. And I'm messaging my friend because at first I was like, he's so lovely, blah, blah. Now I'm like, he's fucking fried. He obviously like had a bit of a twirl, like when he took the dog for a fucking run or something. Like he went to the dealer's house down the road. I don't know, but he's done a complete 360 like the rapper, and he's fucking fried and I don't know what to do. And she was like, oh my God, she hates men. Like she's like, get out of there, I'll order you an Uber home, blah blah blah, like get out of there. So I'm like, okay. So after he's like trying to bump and grind and like rapping and shit, I was like, I'm gonna go home now, like I'm really tired and blah blah blah. My friend's got me an Uber. He's like, yeah, alright, all good. He starts ripping clothes off his hangers in his wardrobe, right? And then he picks up this tiny little triangle bikini, like this little one like that, and goes, is this yours? And I was like, be so fucking for real. I was like, no, it's not mine. Picks up a girl's like cheap fucking like Kmart bag, goes, and I have Kmart shit, okay? I'm not saying anything. And he goes, is this yours? And I was like, no. And he was like, oh, righto. And then he was like, well, I'll walk you out. And I was like, okay. And then I like get in the Uber and he's like, I'll pay you back for dinner in the Uber. And I was like, no, you won't. I know you won't. I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And he goes, bye, and slams the fucking car door and does not talk to me ever again. And I was like, what the fuck was that? What was that? Never again.
Since many of us are looking for a new person for a spooky, scary story time, I thought I would throw my name into the ring. My name is Samantha, and I live on coastal New England. So I'm going to be just trying this out by telling you some stories about things that either happened to me or people that I've met, and all of it is based around here in New England with the exception of one story from my husband, which I will tell you at a later time. So I met a young woman who told me that she is one of 8 siblings, and at some point in the early 2000s, when they were all pretty young, their parents went through a really nasty divorce. So their mom had to find a new place for all of them to live, and she had to find it fast. But the only place that she could find was this rundown house, and it was right by the beach. So the good news is that they had a backyard and they could go to the beach and they could be safe and all of that. But the house itself was very old and, the normal things that you expect to happen would happen. The roof was a little bit leaky. Lights would turn on that you swore you turn off. Doors would be open that you swore you closed, just like normal stuff like that. But because there was so much going on in their life and because there were so many kids in the house between the ages of literally like 3 and 19, everyone would experience these things but just sort of chalk it up to, oh, well, maybe so-and-so was using the bathroom, maybe so-and-so opened this, I don't know, right? A few years after that, their mom really managed to get back on her feet and was able to buy them a really, really nice house. Everyone, for the most part, had only one other person in their room, and again, coastal New England, so great schools, great life, fresh air, all of that kind of stuff. But one night, their house caught on fire. And still to this day, they don't really know why. The fire department was like, okay, it looked like an electrical fire, but I don't know. So there was a lot of kind of like, was it arson? Was it electrical? I don't know. But regardless, the fire chief wrote it off as electrical. So the insurance company said, hey, listen, because it is the pandemic, we are not able to put all of you in a hotel. They were like, I'm really sorry, but there just isn't enough room to accommodate all of you at one location. However, we have found a house that is currently like in foreclosure, but like the bank said that they're happy to let you guys stay there and whatever. So they don't really have a choice, right? So they all move into this house, and right away, weird things start happening. Now, this house had been sitting abandoned for, I think, 4 or 5 years at that point. So it was really, really dirty. Again, it was owned by the bank. So, like whenever a bank takes possession of a house, they'll kind of go in there and they'll clean some things up. If you're really lucky, they'll like repaint, but they're not really going to do much. And it also came more or less fully furnished. Like, it would have a bed frame, but not a mattress. And like, it would have like a couch, but like the couch would need a couch cover, like things like that. Right away, when they started moving in there, things started happening. Now, this particular house was really, really old. It was built in the early 1900s. So it was like a Victorian style house. And at that point, like the older kids, they had found their own accommodation. So it was just the 6 kids and the mom. Right away, things started happening very similar to the other house they were in. Doors opening that you swore you closed, cabinet doors opening, pots and pans being moved around, lights turning on and off, like stuff like that. But the creepiest thing about this house was that there was a phone on the wall. Now, in a lot of old homes here in New England, and actually my childhood home growing up had one of these, they have these like old phones that were like connected directly to another house. So like, for example, if there was a main house, there would also be a phone in the stable as well as the carriage house so that the family could call down and order the carriage or whatever, right? So it was just this old phone from the early, it was like 1915 or something like that. It absolutely was not hooked up to the wall or anything. At that point, it was just ornamental, but they kept it in there for whatever reason. So one night, my friend was home, and it was just her mom, and her little brother. And all of a sudden, wouldn't you know it, that phone rang. How is that possible? I don't know. So they're screaming, they're watching it, they ignore it. Then all of a sudden, their cell phone starts ringing. So they're looking and there's no number. It doesn't even say no caller ID. It just says incoming call. That was it. Then it stops, and then the house line ran again. Now, at this point, her mom got up and went over to the wall, was like looking at the wires and everything. And it literally was like one of the old phones. It has like just like the earpiece, and then the microphone was actually like on the phone. You know what I mean? So she's like picking it up, and the earpiece wasn't even connected, and like the wire was cut. There is no reason for that phone to ring. Well, they moved out of there pretty fast. They were able to find some friends. It would take in a few kids here, a few kids there, the mom here, the daughter here, and whatever. And now everyone is safely back on their feet. But it begs the question, did something follow them from that beach home, or even from their own original home? Or was this something that was just unique to that house, and they, across 3 different properties, experienced this kind of paranormal activity? Let me know what you think in the comments.
Max Joseph, you fucked with the wrong bitch. Story time. So about a week ago, I matched with this guy called Max Joseph. Here is his picture. And from the start, he was very persistent about us meeting up, okay? And a key thing to remember here is he liked my Hinge profile. Now, I'm just going to quickly show you what's on my Hinge profile for full transparency, okay? So he liked my profile, and the first thing he sent to me was a voice note, and he said, "I'm loving the pictures. We should arrange to meet up this week or next." Okay? So he's quite persistent about wanting to meet up, and he's the one that's liked my profile, okay? On my profile, it shows my full body. I have 3 full body pictures and 3 selfies. This is also important to the story, okay? So now Max has asked me for my phone number, and I gave him my phone number. And you can see, again, he wants to meet up. And he even called me a few times prior to us meeting up, okay? Now, here's where the story gets a little bit weird. He did ask me for my Instagram, okay? And I sent him my Instagram because, again, I don't catfish people. I'm not in the business of catfishing. I send him my Instagram, and he goes through my whole Instagram profile, yeah? I only have 1 post, but I do have highlights that I've kept up, and they are from a few years ago. So in those highlights, admittedly, I have a much slimmer frame. But these are not the pictures that are on my Hinge profile, so they're not even relevant, okay? They're not what I used to, quote-unquote, advertise myself, if that makes sense. So he takes a screenshot of a picture of me, and he says, "You look so different here. I'm confused. What do you actually look like now?" So I told him, the 1 post on my Instagram that I have on my grid, that is me in present day. He said, "Okay, cool." And I even said to him, "You can see my body." Yeah. So bear that in mind. So now it rolls around to Sunday, which is today, the day I'm filming this, the day that this has happened. And we agree we're going to meet up at 2 p.m. Okay, 2 p.m. Keep that in mind. 2 p.m. rolls around. I'm still not ready. So I asked him, can we push it back to 3 p.m.? And we plan to meet in Pineapple Station, yeah? So I was going to meet him in Pineapple Station, and he was going to pick me up from Pineapple Station, and then from there we were going to decide what we were going to do. So I get to Pineapple Station at 3 p.m. and I meet him, and I get in his car, and we're having like small talk, and we're just talking about how I got here and whatnot, and everything seems quite normal. So now we are en route to a local pub, and he says to me, "Oh, why don't we actually go to a local pub in Strawberryland where you live?" Because I live in Strawberryland, yeah? And I said to him, "No, I don't want to go to Strawberryland, because me personally, if I'm going to go on a date, I prefer to just not be in my area so there's people can't see me, if that makes sense, yeah?" So he was like, "Oh, okay, cool, we won't go to Strawberryland." So then he gets a call from a girl called Melanie Joseph, who I'm going to assume is his sister, because who saves their mum's number as first name and surname? That just seems odd to me. So he gets a call from her, and she's like, "Oh, Dad's taking a turn for the worst. We need to go to the hospital right now. Like, whatever you're doing, you just need to come now." And he's like, "Oh, what happened? What happened?" And she's like, "Oh, I'll tell you when you get here." Convenient, right? So after the phone call ends, I say to him, you know, family first, is fine, I can leave and we can do this another time, it's fine. And then he's acting like he cares about how long the journey is going to be for me. And he's like, oh, should I drop you here or drop you there? I'm like, no, it's fine. Just drop me at Kiwi Station and I'll make my way back to Strawberryland. So now my phone was on like 2-3% at this point. So I wasn't checking my socials when I was on my way home, right? I got the bus back to Strawberryland. So I wasn't checking my socials, and I didn't text him on WhatsApp straight away to find out, like, to let him know like how my journey's going, right? So I go all the way home. It takes me 1 hour to get home, to get to Strawberryland. And then when I get home, I decide I'm gonna go to the gym. So I get ready to go to the gym, charge my phone a bit, and then when I'm making my way to the gym, I send him a text and I say, oh, I got home safe, because I tend to do that. If I see a guy, I'll say, okay, I got home safe when I'm home safe. And it doesn't go through. But first I was thinking, okay, it could just be my signal or his signal that's making it not go through. But then it clocked to me, I lost a follower, because I did check Instagram like a few times when I was en route home to Strawberryland. I saw that I lost a follower. So I went to his page, which is, as you can see, it's this, and it says user not found, right? So I got blocked, right? And I was like, wow. So I called him, and I think I'm blocked there too, but I called him and I just said, you know, you're a coward. I did not catfish you, because you saw my images on Hinge, on Instagram, and I even sent additional photos of what I look like. So guys, tell me what you think of this story. This is so crazy. Like, this is like the first time I've had a negative experience on Hinge. And you know what? I'm a grown up. I'm 28 years old. If somebody is not attracted to me, I'm not gonna go and die. Like, it doesn't affect me. I literally know I'm not gonna be everybody's cup of tea. So if he didn't like, he had multiple opportunities to express, hey, I'm not attracted to you. I thought I was initially, but actually I'm not. He had multiple times to make that decision and not waste my time and have me travel all the way to Pineapple Station just to be sent back home. But yeah, guys, let me know what you guys think about this let me know what you think about this story.
People think the Grand Canyon is empty after dark, but if you camp near Bright Angels Point, you might see something glowing in the cliffs long after sunset, like an office building covered in rock. And in fact, these lights are so common that some locals in northern Arizona have a name for this story. It's called the Canyon's Pulse. And we got a story from a listener who camped there. But before I get into that, it's important to note that these stories started back in the 1950s when a group of park rangers reported seeing a column of white fire rising from the Grand Canyon floor. Mysteriously, the ranger logs from that week have disappeared. This story came from Meredith, and she says last spring she and two friends were camping on the north rim of the Grand Canyon near Bright Angel Point. She said that part of the park is closed for a lot of the year, but they were camping in May, partially because they wanted to go before all the crowd showed up. And where they were camping was just outside of the official boundary of the park. It was down an old Forest Service road just off of Point Sublime Trail. Now, Meredith said they didn't have any service where they were camping at, and once the sun went down, it was total darkness, total silence. They went to bed early. She woke up around midnight needing to pee, and so she went off to the bathroom. That's when she noticed a faint blue light coming from deep within the canyon. She thought at first maybe it was a headlamp, but this was coming from deep below the rim, way past any campsite, way past any trail. She quickly rules out that it's a headlight or a flashlight because it pulsed 3 short bursts and then it went dark. She could not for the life of her figure out what it was. So she woke up her friends, they went to the edge of the rim again, and they were looking for this light, and that's when it reappeared. But this time there were more of them. The original light lit up and then there was another one to the east, but she said this must have been miles from the original light. They all stood at the edge watching, and they see a third light come on, and they're all pulsing and blinking in different patterns and different rhythms, and it almost seems like they're sending signals to each other. And that's when she said something happened that she still can't really explain, but her friends saw it too. The whole canyon, for a split second, lit up as if from within. She said, I swear to you, it looked like there were actual windows glowing behind the rock face like an office building lit up at night. She said you could even make out the pattern, square shapes of light stacked in rows fading deep within the canyon. And then she said as suddenly as it lit up, it went dark, and that's when they heard a low mechanical hum coming from deep down below them. And at that point, they noticed a dark helicopter that swept over the rim. It was totally dark, totally unmarked, and without lights. She said they didn't even hear it until it was almost right above them, but it turned into the gorge and then disappeared completely from sight. When the helicopter disappeared, the 3 lights that they saw originally also went out completely. The next day, they went over to the overlook at Bright Angel Point, and they were looking for any signs of campsites or anything from down below that could have explained what they experienced the night before, but they couldn't find anything. And they actually ended up telling a ranger what they saw, and he said, oh, those were probably just survey drones. So Meredith said she asked him, like, what kind of survey drone can make the inside of a canyon look like an office building, and he didn't answer. They stayed one more night, but didn't notice anything strange. So they camped 2 nights, and then the following morning, they left and were driving toward Jacob Lake, and they were going to grab some breakfast. They ended up stopping at a diner that she said looked like it had been there forever, and their server was this older woman with her hair pulled tight into a gray bun. She was pleasant, she was polite, she was making conversation with them, and so they told her about the black helicopter and the lights they saw in the canyon. But this woman didn't even bat an eye. She's like, oh, you saw them, huh? And they're like, we saw them. What do you mean? She's like, yeah, y'all aren't the first people this month to see them. We call that the canyon's pulse. And then she leans in and she's like, back when I started here, the rangers used to come in here and they would talk about these pulsing lights and nobody knew what they were. Not even the rangers. They would show up, they would pulse, a black helicopter would fly down, and then they would all go out. Meredith and her friends press her for a more concrete answer, but she said she doesn't really know much. And she said, some people say they're survey drones, and that makes sense, sure. Other people think it's related to the Cold War experiments they were doing at Camp Navajo. She tells them that they'll never admit to anything, though. But then she says, I think that it's the canyon itself. I think the canyon watches people. I think it's alive. And then Meredith and her friends are like, why do you think that? The woman smiles and she says, yeah, when I was young, I was hiking with my brother, and I swear the whole canyon lit up like a city. There were lights coming from everywhere. And I just felt like the canyon wanted to be seen. I can't explain it further than that. It's just a feeling that I... And so Meredith's like, well, has anyone else around here seen it? Or what do they think? And this old woman's just like, nobody around here thinks anything. Everybody around here knows. Meredith said she's been back to the Grand Canyon twice, and although she hasn't seen the lights again, she just has this feeling now that there's something buried and ancient there that's hiding in plain sight. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. I've only been to the Grand Canyon once when I was too little to remember it, but I would love to go back. So anybody local, please weigh in. If you're new here, my series is called Spooky Scary Storytime, and I try to post a new story almost every single day about the things that people experience that they think nobody else would believe.
82% of CIA agents are men, which is crazy to me because one time I used a guy's public Venmo transaction history and his Twitter likes to figure out that he was also seeing a girl across the country. And I just don't believe a man could do that.
I had to turn on all my lights after reading this story. If you're new here, hi. I usually talk about some pretty scary stuff, and today I'm going to be talking about a story that I've been kind of putting off making the video for. And a huge driving factor on this, and now I'm going to be fully transparent about this. I'm not a fan of making videos about demonic things or demons specifically because every single time I've made a video, whether it's my personal experience or if it's someone else's, I hear things in either the background or in the audio and I have to reshoot it, something, every single time. I've also had instances where my dogs are growling at things that are not there, so you get the gist on why I'm a little hesitant to make videos about demonic things. But without further ado, let's get into it. This story comes from Lexi, who lives in West Virginia and lives in a very haunted house. She says that the hauntings started around the time when she was 6. Just for context purposes, she was 4 when her parents got a divorce, and her mom started seeing this man when she was around 6 years old, and shortly after, all of these hauntings started. And at first it was small occurrences, like her mom telling her to pick up her toys, so she would do so, and when they would come back, the toys would be scattered all across the floor. And she mentions during these instances, her mom and her both were afraid because they both knew that it was almost impossible for these things to be happening. But they continued to brush off these little noises, these little occurrences, because they could be coincidental. And Lexi says that this continued for 2 years before her mom's boyfriend moved in, and his parents actually lived down the street from Lexi's mom, where all of this stuff is occurring. And one night, Lexi, her mom, and her mom's boyfriend go down to his parents' house to have dinner. A couple of his cousins were over with their kids, and there was this little girl there who was like 2 years older than Lexi at the time, so little girl was 10, Lexi was 8. And when they were playing, this little girl just out of the blue says, "Did you know that there's an old woman who lives in the bedroom upstairs?" And at the time, she thought it was creepy, but she just kind of brushed it off, thinking that the little girl was just trying to scare her. A couple days later, her mom is walking up the stairs to use the bathroom, and Lexi just tells her mom, "Hey," little girl's name, said that there is a woman who lives in the bedroom upstairs. Her mom kind of turns around and is like, "Which bedroom?" So Lexi walks upstairs, gets to the door, and goes to look in and points and says, "This one." And as she does, she did in fact see a woman standing there, very pale, black hair, and a long nightgown. Lexi specifically said that it looked like it was from the early 1900s. And obviously upon seeing this, Lexi ran downstairs and her mom was really confused until they got back to their house and she explained the entire situation. Lexi's mom's boyfriend was overhearing this conversation and asked her to describe this woman. And when she did, he then said that they had been seeing that same woman there for years. And this is where things take a turn for the worse. Lexi says from that point on, the encounters in her house that were once very small became very amplified and very scary. And she said specifically that many nights she would feel like there was something in the room with her, even more specifically watching her sleep. But again, she brushed it off because she thought she was just scared. Until she was having a friend sleep over and her friend woke her up in the middle of the night to specifically tell Lexi that she had seen a woman looking at her from over the footboard, just like this. And Lexi thought it was a joke until her friend described the exact same woman she had been seeing. And I guess things get even worse because after this incident, Lexi's mom begins telling her that she has been seeing her walk around the house when she is not home. She can hear Lexi talking when she is not home. And Lexi had been seeing this woman in mirrors, like when she's brushing her teeth, for example. And on top of this, and what I think is the scariest, Lexi would hear clapping when nobody else was home, and people talking when nobody else is home. And most recently, she tells me that they have 2 dogs, and she brought one of the dogs into her room when she starts to hear the other dog whining and a woman talking to her dog. So immediately she opens the door, tells the other dog, like, Mom's home. The dog does not get up and greet her mom like he would normally do. And when Lexi walks out to go see her mom, she finds out that her mom is not home, her car is not in the driveway, and she is still at work. So again, she goes back in her room, closes the door, clear as day, hears a woman say, "Come here, where are you?" And she can hear the dog go from whining to barking. So immediately, she thinks that someone has broken into her house. She locks her door, gets her softball bat out, and calls her mom to come home immediately. The dog she had with her began barking, and thankfully, her mom only works like 10 minutes away, so she rushed home. But during the time of her mom coming home, Lexi began to hear heavy footsteps coming towards her door. And Lexi specifically states that the energy felt so heavy, and when whatever was outside of the door got to the door, it got eerily silent, and the keychain she has on her door began swaying back and forth. Her mom then got home, found no one in the house, and Lexi believes that the spirit attached itself to her and followed them home and has not left. Because that last instance happened like 3 weeks ago. And before I get into anything else, I just have to pause and say I've had to cut a couple of things out because I was hearing banging noises on my wall. And if you don't know, now you do. I either film early in the morning or late at night. I do this because then I don't have to worry about outside noises or my neighbors being awake, etc. So I don't know, and it's furthering the I don't like making videos about demons kind of thing. What really freaked me out was the clapping and obviously the lady looking over the footboard. I don't like that. And I swear I can almost see her face when I'm talking about this. And when I read it the first time, I could see her. But anyways, that's gonna do it for me. Stay tuned for more ghost stories.
This guy, Andrew, emailed me and he was like, I saw your crazy roommate story. I have to tell you mine. When I read the details of this email, my jaw was on the floor. It's disgusting. You cannot make this stuff up. 5 or 6 years ago, Andrew moves out of his parents' house. He's getting his first apartment. He meets a guy on Craigslist and they move in together. He said he really needed to move out at that point in his life because he's one of 7 children. Money was tight, space was tight. So like he had no other options. So Mark is his Craigslist roommate. Mark is off the bat really quiet, really awkward, really shy. They actually don't end up talking much, but like it's not a bad roommate situation. Like Mark's pretty respectful. They greet each other when they pass each other, but like don't really have a friendship or a relationship. Andrew's living there for 5 months with no problems when things start to get weird. One night, Andrew's getting home and he gets a text from Mark saying that Mark is going to be out of the apartment tonight. So he doesn't think anything of it. He doesn't respond, leaves him on read, and he goes into his room, turns on his PC, puts on his headphones and starts playing video games. And he's playing games for like an hour when he feels somebody touch his shoulder and he jumps and turns around because he doesn't expect anyone to be there, and Mark's standing there. So Andrew jumps and he turns around and he's like, I'm sorry, like I didn't think you were gonna be home tonight, you just scared me. And Mark's just like, why would I not be at home? I'm always home at night. And Andrew's like, well, you texted me that you weren't gonna be here. And Mark's like, I don't know what you're talking about. So Andrew doesn't think anything of it because he thinks he just like read the text in a weird way, or maybe it was written in a weird way. And Mark goes to bed. And then an hour later, Andrew goes to bed. While he's asleep, he wakes up to the sound of something shattering in the kitchen. So he runs out. He thought that maybe Mark just broke a dish or something, but he sees Mark sitting on the floor in the kitchen, self-harming with pieces of a plate. So he starts screaming at Mark. He's like, what are you doing? And Mark just looks at him very calmly and is like, what does it look like? Andrew's like freaking out. So he turns all the lights on. He's like trying to talk him out of it. Mark puts the plate down and basically just says like, I don't want to talk about it. Then he gets really mad at Andrew and he's like, you know what? Next time I'm just going to use a knife since all you care about is your dishes anyway. He gets up, he storms past Andrew, goes to his room and like slams the door. Andrew decided to text him to be like, are you okay? Like, do you want to talk anymore? And Mark just responds, yeah, like YEA, yeah. Andrew could barely sleep. The whole thing was extremely disturbing to him because Mark had never been rude, never been weird, never been aggressive. So he's just like totally out of pocket with what to do. He tries to talk to Mark again the next day and Mark is like dismissive of the whole thing and basically treats Andrew's concern like a joke. So Andrew decides that if he does anything else, he's going to call 911, but this time he's just going to respect Mark and say that he was having like a depressive or like manic episode. A week later, Andrew is studying at his desk. His door's open and he turns to look and he sees Mark standing at the doorway of his room. And his eyes are weird. They're like glazed over, not focused, but he can tell he's looking at him and his mouth's open. So Andrew's like, do you need anything? And Mark just like makes a wet smacking noise with his lips. So Andrew's talking to him and he's not acknowledging anything Andrew's saying. And he just keeps making this sound and like he's just standing there for like 15 minutes and Andrew's like getting really freaked out and really uncomfortable naturally. So Andrew gets up and like literally pushes him out of the doorway and closes the door. And Mark's just standing there like still making the noise. And Andrew's like really disturbed. So he goes and he calls his friend who tells him that he needs to call to get Mark evaluated for like mental health issues. And then he calls his brother and his brother's like, no, don't do that because you're going to lose your roommate. He's like, if he's paying rent and everything's good, just like let him be. A month goes by. Mark is still acting weird, but Andrew said like most things were like too small to mention and he wasn't necessarily a victim. Like Mark would stay out all night. He wouldn't come out of his room. He would just act weird and erratic around the apartment. But the final straw comes one night when Andrew wakes up to use the bathroom and he goes in the bathroom, turns on the lights and finds Mark eating his own feces out of the toilet. Andrew freaks out naturally, screams at him, calls him a freak, and he said looking back it was really harsh, but he was just so shocked in the moment. And everything else that Mark had been doing just really made him blow up. And Mark just looks at him and tells him to grow a pair. Then Mark goes back to doing what he was doing. And Andrew's so freaked out that he packs a bag and he leaves to go get a hotel that night. He calls him in the morning. He's like, I don't want to be roommates with you anymore. Like, you need to move out. And Mark starts crying on the phone. He's like begging him not to kick him out. And a few hours later, he's like, okay, I'll leave. And Andrew also ended up switching apartments because he said he just didn't feel safe anymore. A week after they break the lease and move out, he finds out that Mark has attacked someone at a train station. The person he attacked retaliated and Mark was unalived by his wounds. There's a little more to the story. The details are very graphic, so I couldn't include them because it's TikTok. But Andrew ended his email by saying that he has actually blamed himself a few times for Mark's unaliving. And he suspects that he was acting that way because of schmugs and that he really wishes that he had called someone sooner. Andrew will be seeing the comments, so be nice. And keep sending me your creepy, crazy, spooky story times, and I will keep posting them in this playlist. So I have polls on my Insta every day of which story you guys want to hear next, so follow me there.
I like to play a little game at home called Refrigerator Jenga, where I try to remove something from the very back without moving any of the items cluttered in front of it. And it's fun because if I win, I get my item and I feel proud of myself. And if I lose, I spend 40 minutes cleaning up marinara and broken glass off the floor.
Story time about how a guy begged to take me out on a date and I end up paying for the whole thing. So this happened about 2-3 years ago. And this is like when I still had like Facebook at the time. There was this one guy who would like ask to like take me out all the time. And I would always dub him because like no tea, no shade. But I like my men chocolate. Dark chocolate. I could do the brown skin too. But I just feel like two yellow tone people just, no. I'm already yellow enough for the both of us. Point of matter is, he was asking me for like bare long. I think for like 2 years he been trying to get a date with me. So I was like, fuck it, why not? Let me go see what this guy's about. Something told me, you know, them little posts that be like, oh, give the guys that be in your DMs a chance because that could be your husband. I don't even know why I did that because he was not my type. He wasn't ugly until he smiled. Like, he smiled and his teeth was like 90% gums, 10% teeth. That whole shit just pissed me off. So, fast forward, he comes, he picks me up. It's pretty early in the day because there was 2 things that I wanted to do that day. I wanted to go to Coney Island. I know y'all be like, if y'all from New York, they're going to be like, why would you want to go to Coney Island for the first date? One, I like amusement parks, and two, Coney Island after hours, after a certain time, you have to be 21 plus to be there. And then going on rides drunk as hell, oh, it's a time. So I wanted to go there, and I also wanted to go to dinner. So this man picks me up. He's driving a 2020 BMW, all white, red interior. I'm talking about he looked like he just got the car off the lot. And I remember on Facebook, like, he was flexing that he got himself a new car, which is okay, that's cute. I'm not someone that, like, money impresses me, but let's just continue the story. So he picks me up, I get in a car. I live in Manhattan, he lives in Brooklyn, so that drive to Manhattan was already something. So he had to drive all the way back to Brooklyn because Coney Island is in Brooklyn, which was like an hour and 30-minute drive. We get to Coney Island now, and in my head, we're gonna, pay for parking because it's Coney Island. Like, if you go to an amusement park, there's no way you find parking. Everybody tries to take the free parking, and then by Coney Island, there's like people that live around there, so there's no way you're gonna find parking. Just pay for the parking, call it a day. This man starts circling the neighborhood because he wants to look for parking. He was like, nah, I'm not gonna pay for parking. I'm not paying $20 just to park my hair for a couple hours. Bro, it's $20. So that was my first red flag. Like, you don't want to pay $20 to ease your mind, but you would rather drive around here for 30 minutes straight looking for parking. So then as we're driving around, like, I'm getting irritated because I'm like, bro, like, I'm not trying to sit around here looking for parking the whole time. Like, it's getting dark. It's going to start getting cold soon. So then he started asking me, like, how much do you usually pay for, like, the rides and stuff like that? Like, what's the ride prices? So I told him, like, if you spend, like, $100 per person, you can probably go on every single ride that's there. Granted, we're not going to go on every single ride, but if you spent $100 on the both of us, then we could get like 3, 4, even 5 rides in and still be able to play some games. Which to me, like, $100 is not nothing. Like, don't ask to take me out on a date if you don't even got fucking $100. So mind you, by this time, we're 45 minutes circling around to look for parking. Then we see another sign saying, like, you can park here for 4 hours for $10. Homeboy said, nah, I'm not paying that. $10? Like, at this point, I'll pay it. He like, nah, you don't have to pay either. We gonna find something. We circled around for an hour, and at that point, I'm like, you know what, fuck Coney Island, let's just go get dinner. Like, I'm not even feeling no more. He like, oh, are you sure? Like, what place did you pick? So I just picked a random spot online. When I tell you, this is the first time some shit like this happened to me that I know exactly what the fuck we ordered. We get to the spot, we sit down. It's a cute little restaurant spot. We're talking, like, I'm trying to get to know him more. This is what we ordered. We ordered 3 drinks. I had 1, he had 2. 3 appetizers. I had 1, he had 2, and 1 entree. I had the entree. So that means I had an entree, a drink, and an appetizer. He had 2 appetizers and 2 drinks. Let's keep it in mind. The appetizers are cheaper than the entrees. The bill in total came up to $100. $105.86. I remember it to a T. And that's including the gratuity. You know how good that is for you to get all that food for only $100, including gratuity? Especially in Brooklyn or like just in New York in general. So now the bill comes. This man pulls out the calculator on his phone to calculate what I got and what he got so we can split the bill. When I tell you I was so fucking embarrassed, bro. Like, I've never had to pay for my own dinner when I go out on dates or pay for anything. And honestly, if we're going out drinking or whatever, I'd be quick to pull out my card too, like, oh, next round is on me. But if you're begging to take me out, this is my first impression of you. You're gonna make me pay for the date. You're gonna make me pay for my portion of the food, which I honestly didn't even OD. I got what a regular person would get if they were at dinner. There was 2 guys that was sitting right across from us, and when I tell you, like, they were staring at me. And I'm just like, bro, what the fuck? Because we were in like an outside dining type of area. So now the waiter is there standing above us and he still has the calculator on his phone. And I keep my card sometimes in my phone case. So I just pull out my debit card. I'm like, here, like, just put everything on my card. So he's like, oh, like, you're going to do that for me? Like, I never had somebody do that for me. Like, that's so sweet. Boy, shut the fuck up. Shut up. At this point, I'm ready livid. I'm ready texting the group chat like, bro, like, why the fuck I just paid for this fucking date, bro? And they're all cutting my ass. So now we're walking back to the car. He doesn't even open the car door for me. I gotta open it for myself. Then he's like, oh, can I ask you something? And I'm like, like, what's up? He's like, when you go on dates and stuff like that, like, do you ever put in for gas money? Are you fucking stupid? You just asked me to put in for gas money after I just paid for the fucking dinner? Like, the fuck? I'm like, no, like, what the fuck? I never in my life had to put in for fucking gas money. Not even when my friends were taking me somewhere. Like, I never, like, I offered, but why are you asking me for fucking gas money? He was like, oh, because Manhattan is fake deep, and I gotta drive an hour there and drive an hour back, da-da-da. But what the fuck? You the one that wanted to take me. You knew what the fuck you was getting into before you fucking picked me up. All right. So then we drive all the way to my house. It's kind of silent now because now I'm just hot. I'm literally just texting my phone. Like, you can literally hear this. Because, like, my nails are just typing on the phone. And he's like, oh, you good? You good? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. But in my head, I already know, like, I'm never going to talk to this boy again. So now we get to my house, and this boy starts circling the block. I'm like, like, what you trying to do? Get a little bit more time with me? I'm like, what you doing? He was like, oh, I thought, I could park and I could come upstairs and we can talk a little. No. You want to come into my house? The house that I pay rent in and talk to me? No, after I paid for the date? And after you ask me for gas money? One thing men have is they just have the nerve. But, like, yeah, I never spoke to him again. Ever. At all. I got so much date horror stories. I think I'm just going to post, like, since TikTok is freaking getting banned and shit, I'm just going to post, like,